You've got a lot to do. Wouldn't it be nice to have a little less on your mind? Eide Bailly can take the pressure off your day-to-day accounting, taxes, data issues, and other business needs. What inspires you inspires us.
This is the Art of Dental Finance and Management podcast, brought to you by Art Wiederman, CPA with Eide Bailly. Whether it's taxes and investing or planning wisely, Art is the expert to make your dental practice profitable. At Eide Bailly, what inspires you inspires us. We provide a suite of accounting and advisory services dedicated to the total care of your practice. Visit our website to access our tools and resources tailored for dentists, eidebailly.com/dentist. That's EIDEBAILLY.com/dentist. This podcast is distributed with the understanding that Art Wiederman, CPA, and Eide Bailly, LLP are not rendering legal, accounting, or other professional advice. Listeners should consult with their business advisors before acting on any of the information or opinions shared. If you have questions and or feedback, make sure to email Art over at awiederman@eidebailly.com. That's AWIEDERMAN at EIDEBAILLY.com. You can also give Art a call at 657-279-3243. Without further delay, here's your host, Dental CPA Art Wiederman.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Art of Dental Finance and Management with Art Wiederman, CPA. I'm your host. My name's Art Wiederman, and for my first-time listeners, of which we have a lot of them every single episode, I am a dental division director for the CPA firm of Eide Bailly. I'm located in, our office is in Tustin, California. I work out of my house in South Orange County in Laguna Beach, and I've been a dental-specific CPA for 38 years. And I have a special episode for you today. I guess I always say that I have a special. I guess maybe one day I'll say, this episode is really crappy. Don't listen to it. I don't think I'll ever do that. But today I have one of my long-term professional friends. His name is Ray Martin. And Ray is a specialist in helping individuals with transitioning from private insurance to Medicare. Now, for those of you who are 30 and 40 and 50 years old listening to this podcast, don't turn it off, because you may have a mom or a dad or an aunt or an uncle or a brother or sister who don't really know what to do regarding Medicare. You may be on your spouse's policy and you may not know what to do. So this really covers everybody. It's a big decision, transitioning over. So Ray is my go-to guy when a client has to decide what they want to do for Medicare and insurance once they reach the age of 65. So we'll get to Ray in a moment. I want to tell you about our wonderful partners, Decisions in Dentistry Magazine. Decisions in Dentistry Magazine is the premier clinical dental magazine in the world. If you want great continuing education, they have 140 CE courses teed up for you at a very, very reasonable price. They have a great website. Go to www.decisionsindentistry.com. And also, if you're looking for a dental-specific CPA, we're here at Eide Bailly. We work with over 1,000 dentists, mostly in the Western United States. And we're always taking new clients. There is one requirement. You have to be nice. We like nice people. And that's the great thing about working with dentist folks. I've been doing it for, like, say, 38 years. And my clients are just the nicest people. They care. I've had occasion to refer some of my friends to some of our clients. And it's just amazing to see them go into dentist mode and to see how they take care of people. So, my phone number is 657-279-3243. My email is awiederman, Wiederman, at eidebailly.com. And I also have my brethren, which is the Academy of Dental CPAs, 25 CPA firms across the United States that represent over 10,000 dentists. So before we get to Ray, I just got back. We're here at the end of September of 2022. And this past weekend, I just got back. My wife, Lynn, and I got back from a 16-day trip to Italy. And Ray and I were talking. He's apparently has a lot of experience in dealing and going to Italy and stuff. And we ended up going to Cinque Terre, and Cinque Terre is gorgeous. 5 towns. If you ever get a chance to do it, there's hiking, there's boat rides, beautiful beaches. It was really wonderful. And then we did a day of planes, trains, and automobiles. 3 trains, an airplane, and a cab to get to Brindisi in the Puglia region, spelled Puglia. And then we embarked on a 9-day, 8-night bicycling trip. Now, the one thing I learned is A, I will probably never ride anything other than an e-bike again. And B, I will not be joining the Tour de France any time soon. But I did cycle 170 miles in 6 days, which permitted me to eat pizza and pasta and drink wine, which is why I did it. So if you have if you've never been to Italy, go. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And that is sponsored by the Italy Travel Foundation or whatever that is.
Be sure to check out our new Eide Bailly podcast, Ebb and Flow, a business podcast providing inspired insight on issues and trends the middle market faces. Hear unique business stories, get answers to frequently asked and unasked questions, and understand business topics that matter to you. Available now on your favorite podcast platform.
So let's get to our topic today and our guest, Ray Martin. Ray is the founder and president of Martin and Associates Insurance. And Ray has devoted his career to helping individuals with their insurance needs. He's also a registered investment advisor, and he has written a best-selling book called The Nuts and Bolts of Original Medicare, Medicare Supplement Insurance and Medicare Advantage. Now, I am getting close. I was going to count the number of days. I am 63 years old and 1 month. So I'm about 23 months away from Medicare. And I've already started talking to Ray about Medicare and, what do I do and how do I do it? And there's a lot of ins and outs and planning. And this is a great episode, folks, that, again, if you're getting close, listen to it a couple of times. If you have a family member or a brother, brother, sister, like I was saying, send it over to them. Let them listen to it because Ray is going to kind of walk you through the whole gamut. So Ray Martin, welcome to the Art of Dental Finance and Management.
Good morning, Art. Yeah, thank you for inviting me on the podcast. I appreciate it. And yes, I'm here. Hopefully what we'll share today will enlighten a lot of your listeners, and I think it'll be worth their time to take a few minutes to listen to this because everyone has to eventually cross the bridge of Medicare.
Well, first, let's talk about Italy. You said you've been to Italy 5 times?
Yes. Yeah, back in the early 80s, I was a director of a nonprofit which sponsored academic events and every year, and they would hold those events in Rome. So I actually had trips to Rome every summer, traveled around Rome. I'll tell you real quick, just an interesting story.
Sure.
I was the travel coordinator. So in those days, in the early 80s, they were paper tickets. And so you had to go especially for people who flew internationally, you had to reconfirm every single ticket. So one morning, I decided the travel agency near the hotel was about 2 miles away. I had a stack of 200 physical airline tickets that each participant gave me their ticket. I walked the 2 miles, got there at about 12:05, and learned that the Italians take a siesta at 12 noon and don't reopen their stores until 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I saw that when I was in Italy. We were talking about this before. We started recording is that, they shut down 12, 1 o'clock, and they don't open up until, 4:30, 5:30.
Right. It's an different way of business than in the United States. I was quite shocked. I mean, I couldn't imagine American stores closing at 12 o'clock.
Well, I will tell you, the Italian people are very, very happy people. You could see it on all their faces, and I had a wonderful time. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. But while we would love to talk about Italy for the next hour, we are going to talk about Medicare. But first, Ray, tell us a little bit about your professional journey and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Thank you, Art. Well, I've been in the insurance industry for 30 years, actually 32 years. I started with a company called Prudential, learned all about life insurance, disability insurance, group medical insurance. And then in 1990, I branched out on my own, started my own agency, and soon after that, really began to discover the issues that, well, at that time, my parents had to deal with, which was Medicare and long-term care and issues like that. And the more I learned about it, the more I felt it was a very rewarding career to help people who are transitioning to Medicare. So I started my own agency in 1992. I've been growing it ever since. Now my two sons, Elliot Martin and Mohan Martin, are now full-time working with me in my business. I'm so happy that they're here and helping our company grow. And we're growing probably by about 10% a year. I'm also a registered investment advisor. I have a Series 65 securities license, but written several books. Of course, you mentioned it at the beginning, the nuts and bolts of original Medicare and Medicare supplement insurance. I've also written a book called Stress-Free Retirement. So that's kind of my specialty. And we have probably over 2,000 clients that are on Medicare and growing every year by a couple hundred clients.
Well, let's get right into the topic, Ray, because there's a lot to know about Medicare, and insurance is so important, and you don't want to screw this thing up. So let's start off. Now, I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of our listeners who just say, well, I turned 65, I have to go on Medicare. Is that true?
Well, no, not necessarily. So let me explain something. So when someone reaches age 65, they have a 7-month window to enroll in Medicare. They have a 3-month window prior to their 65th birthday. They have the month of their 65th birthday, and they have 3 months after their 65th birthday. So it's actually a 7-month window to enroll in Medicare. However, they don't necessarily have to enroll in Medicare if they're currently employed and covered under employer group insurance. And I want to be very specific. They need to be active employees. It can't be just something that they retired and left their company and kept it. So if they're an active employee and have employer group insurance, they could continue on that insurance if they want to.
But okay, so this is important. So if I have somebody who's an employee and then they leave, and we know under the COBRA rules, they can continue to pay for their own insurance for, I believe it's 18 months, right? You're saying that doesn't work, right? If they have to be an active employee.
Okay, so here's the rules right now under CMS, which CMS is the government agency which basically runs Medicare. CMS, if someone is on COBRA, CMS only recognizes that as group coverage for 8 months. If they stay on that COBRA and they're past age 65, if they stay on it past 8 months, they're going to have a penalty from Medicare. And Medicare
what is the penalty? What is the penalty if you're supposed to go on Medicare and you don't?
Good question. So the penalty is a 10% penalty on their Part B premium. Whatever the Part B premium is at the time, and right now it's about $170 a month. That would be a $17 penalty, and that goes on forever.
So is that $17 per year? Oh, per month?
Sorry, $17 per month. That's a 10% penalty on the $170 monthly Part B premium. So that's $17, and that's every month, and it goes on for the rest of their life. So they don't want to stay on. The point I'm trying to make, Art, is if they leave their employer and go on COBRA, don't stay on COBRA. Contact someone to help them transition to Medicare.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of the math here. Okay, and so this is, I want to get into this, and then we're going to get the gist of what we're going to talk about is what the different things that are covered in supplementals, and that's where you're going to tell us all the rules and stuff. But sure. So you got somebody. Most of my dentists are in a group, and their group is, the notwithstanding the large national dental companies, which is a different animal, but a private practice dentist has anywhere between maybe 3 and 20, 25 employees. So my experience, Ray, is that most of my dentists who are covering themselves between the ages of 55 and 65, and I hit that when I was in my own practice, they're paying $2,000, $2,500 a month for private insurance, and there's really no way to get around it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. And especially in a dental practice, probably the dentist is the oldest member of the practice, and it probably has the employees are probably a lot younger. So the premium for the dentist is probably going to be the highest cost of their group insurance. Yeah. So getting around to the point. So the question I would ask is for a dentist to take a look at what are they paying individually for their group health insurance and compare that to what, if they're age 65 or older, what would be the comparable cost if they went on original Medicare with a Medicare supplement and a standalone prescription drug plan, which is really like a PPO. It would give them freedom to go to any doctor, any hospital, any specialist.
Yeah, and that's going to be, from my experience, a lot less. And we're gonna get into that. We'll get into the numbers. I think we'll get into the numbers a little later. I want to get into, let's start talking about the different parts of, let's break Medicare down and get into the weeds. We've got 4 parts. We've got Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. We've got supplemental, and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
So let's start with Part A. I mean, you taught me something yesterday. Is Part A, if you go on to Medicare and if you don't go into Medicare, you can still get Part A and it's free, right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's start with what the traditional is the Part B, but let's start talking about Part A. What is Part A?
Okay, yeah. So when someone turns age 65, even though they're covered under a group insurance, they can still enroll in Medicare Part A, which is, I would recommend it. And the reason for that is that every month we're paying for Medicare through our taxes. So Part A of Medicare is already paid for if someone has worked at least 40 quarters. 40 quarters, which is 10 years. Then someone's Part A of Medicare is essentially paid up, which means that when they go on Part A, they don't pay any premium for it. So why not at least when someone turns, so if a dentist is turning age 65, why not at least enroll in Part A since there's no charge for it? And then they can wait if they like their group insurance and their premiums are relatively low, which I probably not very often.
Unless they're covered under a spouse's plan, maybe one spouse is the dentist and the other spouse works for Microsoft, Apple, big company that's got great insurance that's inexpensive. I mean, we see that a lot too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we've run across that as well, and that's why when we talk with clients who give our office a call, we always ask them these questions. What is your current coverage? How much are you paying for it? And we get into those details because we want to give people the best advice possible and to save them money, to make sure they have the best coverage possible and as economically as possible. But getting back to your question about Part A, Art, Part A is hospitalization. That is the hospital portion of Medicare. So, and when you're on Medicare, anytime you go into a hospital, you're being covered under Part A of Medicare. Does not include the doctor who might come in from outside and perform a surgery. He's going to be covered, or she will be covered under Part B of Medicare. But any charges while someone's in the hospital that are directly from the hospital are covered under Part A of Medicare. Part A also covers skilled nursing care and a limited amount of home health care. Medicare does not, and I'll emphasize this, Medicare Part A or Part B does not cover long-term care. So that is a completely separate issue. But Part A is hospitalization.
So let's say that I'm someone who, again, maybe my spouse works for a large company and I'm not going to go on Medicare. Do I need to go down to the Social Security Administration to apply for Part A? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. So there are several ways of applying for Medicare now because of the pandemic, COVID pandemic. Medicare is transitioning a lot to allowing people to enroll online. So someone can go to the Social Security website, which is www.ssa.gov. And you'll see there's a little button. If you scroll down, it says Medicare. And then if you click on that button, you scroll down further, you'll eventually see there's a button that says apply for Medicare only. So someone can apply online, or they can call the Social Security Administration. And I'll give that phone number if it's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So the phone number for the Social Security Administration, if you want to enroll in Medicare over the phone, is 800-772-1213. And if you call that number, here's my recommendation. Don't call Monday morning or Friday morning. The Social Security Administration is backed up. They're overworked, overloaded. They don't have enough employees to handle, because in the United States, Art, there's the baby boomers right now, 10,000 people a day are turning 65 in the United States.
Yep.
So you can imagine the phones are going crazy at the Social Security Administration.
And then in COVID, they all the government agencies, IRS, SBA, HH, I mean, everything. I mean, they're just like way behind in all the work they had to do because they were shut down for months and months and months. So
right. That's exactly right. Now, you can also, when you call that number, 800-772-1213, you can request to have an appointment at your local Social Security office and enroll in Medicare that way as well.
Okay, that's great information. All right, so now let's go to Part B, which is the traditional Medicare, the big deal in Medicare. So tell us what Part B is and how does it work? How much does it cost? And let's talk about that.
Okay. So Part B of Medicare is basically covering everything else that Part A didn't cover. So Part A is covering hospitalization. Part B is covering everything else. That means doctors, specialists. That means all kinds of radiological services, MRIs, PET scans, CAT scans, surgeons, physical therapy. It also covers, Part B covers things like cancer treatment, because most cancer chemotherapy is by intravenous. It's through IV, and it has to be performed in a doctor's office. There is basically Part B covers any illness or injury which is medically necessary. Okay, so if it is medically necessary, if it is ordered by a doctor, then Medicare is going to cover it. Now, Medicare, and this is really important, Art, Medicare is original Medicare is a fee-for-service insurance system. I call it the Cadillac of healthcare because really it's better than a PPO, because literally you can go to any doctor in the United States who is contracted with Medicare, no questions asked. You don't have to call an insurance company to get approval. You don't have to go get a referral. You just simply find a doctor that you want to see, you call them up, and you make an appointment. I mean, that is an incredible medical system. It was created in 1965. It works the same way today. So, and there also are a large number of preventative services provided under Part B of Medicare. So there's cancer screening, there's mammograms and wellness checkups for women. There's all kinds of diabetes prevention services. We have actually a list that we send out to our clients of all, it's a long list, like a page long, of all the different preventative services that they can take advantage of with Medicare. So that is essentially Part B. Now,
okay. Go ahead.
Want to talk about the numbers?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the numbers. So it's not free. Part A is free, but Part B is not free.
Correct. So the standard premium for Part B in the United States as of 2022 is $172 a month. Okay, that was a pretty big jump because the previous year, 2021, it was $143 a month. So it jumped pretty big. Now, there are also 5 tiers. So there are tiers for higher income earners, and it can go up to as high as about $580 a month for the highest income earners. Those are individuals who are earning over $700,000 a year. But right. If it's a husband and wife and they're earning under $190,000 a year, they're going to pay the standard Part B premium, which is $170 a month.
So let's, and again, I am required by law, Ray, to talk about numbers on this podcast because I'm a CPA and this is the art of dental finance and management, right? So I have a client who is they're covered through the spouse in a company that's got like 2,500 employees. You and I talked about this yesterday, okay? It's a client of mine, right? And
Right.
so this particular client is still working at the age of 65, and they're making the maximum. So they're going to pay what'd you say, $580 a month.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into talking about the supplemental here in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And to jump a little bit ahead, you said the supplemental policies run a couple $100, 200, 250 a month, right?
Right. For someone who's just turning age 65, well, I live in Orange County, California. So someone turning age 65 here in Orange County, the starting monthly premium is about $170 a month.
Okay. So we're looking at about 700 for someone who's on the maximum is $750 a month. Mm-hmm. So then when we were talking to this client was paying $550 a month because they're part of a big group.
Yeah.
So it's $750 versus $550. But if they go with the full Medicare, they don't have any out of pocket, right? If you do, Ray, the full Medicare, Part B, and the supplemental, do you have any out of pocket for anything for the most part?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's how it works. So if someone has original Medicare, A and B, and they purchase a Medicare, what's called a Medigap policy or Medicare supplement insurance, which right now the top of the line Medicare supplement plan is a plan G as in George. If they have those three things in place, then all they pay annually is a small Part B deductible of $230.
Okay.
When they've met that deductible, everything else that they have, every other medical cost they have throughout the year is covered 100%.
So doctors, here's the math problem, right? So if I go into Medicare,
yeah,
and if you're paying $2,500 a month for your health insurance, it's a no-brainer, Ray, right? I mean, we're
Sure.
going to go from $2,500 a month to maybe $700-800 a month.
Sure.
But if you're covered under a spouse's policy or something else,
mm-hmm.
Where you're paying $500-600 a month, then you have to look at how much out of pocket you're paying. So this client had they have $20 copays for everything they do, plus $1,000 deductible, plus what's called a stop loss, and I don't have to tell you what a stop loss is. So in most insurances, folks, the way it works is you pay your copay, you have $1,000 deductible. So the first $1,000 is on you. Then the policy usually covers 60% or 65% of everything up to, in this case, this client was $7,500. So they had to pay up to potentially another $7,500. So in that case, they might have to pay $7,500 plus the deductible of $1,000 is $8,500 plus, so then it gets to the point of you got to compare apples and oranges, right? And you do that with your clients a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We go through these numbers with everybody because it really does. As you said, it boils down to the numbers. The numbers have to make sense. And there's some other kind of more subtle questions or subtle issues, Art, which is how is the person's health? So they might have those co-payments and deductibles and then co-insurance up to, the max, but it might be like you, a person who's in great health, a bicyclist or a runner, and they only see the doctor once a year. Well, then they might want to stay on the group insurance. But on the other hand, let's say someone has some underlying comorbidities, some heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that, and they're going to the doctor a lot. They're getting a lot of medical treatment. Then the numbers start evening out, and then actually Medicare starts looking a lot better.
So what we want to do, folks, is if you're in that situation, again, if you're on your dental practice group insurance paying $2,000, $2,200 a month, there's no decision. You go on to Medicare and get Ray to get you all the supplemental stuff you need, and you're covered. But if you're not, then you got to run the numbers and see how that works. So let's get into this, and then we'll get into C and D and some other things, but let's get into the Medicare supplements or the Medigap. So we get Part B, which covers, and I'm just reading this off your website, necessary doctor services, preventative care, durable medical equipment, hospital outpatient services. I think you get pizza in Italy too from it, right? I think you do. I have to check. We'll have to check the fine print.
Yeah, there's foreign travel emergency coverage as well.
Well, to me, emergency travel is if I can't find a real good piece of pizza where I am in Italy, but lab test. I mean, so it covers all that. So let's get into the supplements. What does Part B not cover?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question. Before I answer that, let me just address one other issue, which you brought up. And that is what I've found over the years is that individuals who have been on employer group insurance, when they become Medicare eligible, it's just kind of us as human beings. We're comfortable with what we've had and we're afraid of change. And so that's what I found a lot about individuals who've been on employer group insurance for a long time, because, change is kind of scary. But when we sit down and we help our clients kind of navigate through Medicare and look at these numbers, and when they do make the transition, so many times they come back to us and say, boy, Ray, I wish I had done this years ago. But it is kind of a scary thing at first to make that move from group insurance to Medicare. But I want to just assure your listeners that they should really consider it, because Medicare is a great healthcare system.
It is. And so before we get into the supplement and the Medigap, what I'd like to do, folks, is again, and for those of you who've listened to my podcast, we're coming up on 4 years. I don't believe it. 4 years we've been doing this podcast. I mean, we got thousands of listeners. Our podcast provides, great information, world-class people who are experts in their field. So I'm going to let you give out your information. And so let's say I got somebody, and again, it could be for them, it could be for their spouse, it could be for their friend, cousin, aunt, uncle, brother, sister. So how would someone work with you? How do you work? And let's give out, go ahead and give out your phone number and website and email and, whatever you want to give out.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you for the opportunity, Art. And let me just let everyone know right up front, there is never a cost or charge for our services. I'll repeat that. There's never a cost or charge for our services. So we're licensed in almost 30 states. We have clients all around the country. We are a family-run business. I said in the beginning, my sons, Elliot and Mohan, work in our company. We have 3 other agents that have worked with me for over 10 years. So we have a lot of specialists here. And there's not a charge for anyone to call. And you don't have to worry about calling us. If you just have an offhand question you're not sure about, call our office. Or you can send an email. And I'll give my email address out. It's Ray, R-A-Y, at weretiresmart.com. So it's just Ray. So you should be able to remember that. weretiresmart.com. We have a toll-free number nationwide, which is 800-464-4941. That's 800-464-4941. And then you can go to our website. We have a lot of educational videos there, Art. So your listeners can go to our website. It's www.martinmedicare.com. And you'll see my son, Elliot. He loves to make videos and educate clients. So we have a lot of great videos that Elliot has done on our website, and all of our contact information is there as well. There also is a link if you would like, and I'm going to make an offer, Art, that the first 10 people that contact us, either send me an email or go to our website, we will mail them a complimentary copy, free of charge, of my book, The Nuts and Bolts of Original Medicare and Medicare Supplement Insurance.
That's very generous, Ray. So one more time, give out the phone number and the email. So guys, if you want a copy of his book, and I have his book, and it's very thorough and comprehensive. It's not huge. It's not War and Peace, but it's got all the information in it. Go and give it out one more time.
Yeah, it's a very easy book to read. It's only about 65 pages long, and it'll have a lot of the information that we've covered today as well. And again, you can send me an email at Ray at weretiresmart.com. Just send me an email, provide me your mailing address, your name, your mailing address, and your phone number, and we will mail you out a copy of my book. It'll be in your mailbox within about 4 or 5 days.
Perfect. Okay, let's get back into the Medicare supplement Medigap. So what we talked about the fact that Part B does not cover everything. Let's talk about what it doesn't cover, and then we get the Medigap, and what does that cover?
Yeah, so here's the rule. So if Medicare pays the Medicare supplement is going to pay. That's the rule. So you're not going to find a situation where Medicare won't pay something and the Medigap insurance will. If Medicare, let's say you go to it and you have to say someone has to have a back surgery, which is an $80,000 surgery, right, in the hospital. So they go to the hospital part is covered under Part A. So that means their room, their board, their food, their medicines while they're in the hospital, x-rays, laboratory, all that is covered under Part A. But then their orthopedic doctor comes in to perform the back surgery. Well, that doctor is going to charge $80,000 for that back surgery. Part B, in this case, is only going to cover 80% of that doctor's charges.
I see.
So that means there's 20% left of that 80,000 that's not paid for, right? That's $16,000. Well, if someone has a Medicare supplement, Plan G, that Plan G is going to pay that $16,000. So what was the cost of going into the hospital and having an $80,000 back surgery? $230.
Which is the out of pocket. So
which is the
bottom line. So the bottom line is, folks, if you go into, if you apply for Medicare and you don't use someone like Ray and you just get your Medicare, you could be costing yourself tens of thousands of dollars, right? If you don't get the supplemental.
Yeah, well, I think that's true, and it's really important. People should be aware that when they go on Medicare, you don't want to just go on Medicare only. There are lots. Although Medicare pays for almost everything, it does covers almost everything. It doesn't pay for everything, and that's where the Medicare supplement insurance comes in to pick up those parts of Medicare. So, for example, if someone's in the hospital, after 60 days, there's a daily copayment of almost $300 per day. And that goes up to $700 per day if they, God forbid, but they had to be in the hospital more than 90 days. If they have a Medicare supplement, those additional days are all going to be covered and paid for. So you can go to here in Southern California, the best hospitals are like Keck Hospital at USC, Hoag Hospital, Cedars-Sinai, St. Joseph's. If you can go to any one of those, UCLA. I mean, people love to go to UCLA. It's the best. It's known as the best hospital in California. If they have UCLA does not take HMOs. So if someone really wants the best medical care, then you'd want to stay on original Medicare with a Medicare supplement.
So there's basically, and there's no maximum on these, right? I mean, if God forbid someone ends up in a hospital for 6 months, with a private insurance, there's a $1 million or $2 million maximum. With this, there is none, right?
Well, there's not a dollar maximum, but there's a day maximum. So, but the day maximum with Medicare is about 130 days in a hospital, and then the supplement gives another 300 days. Who's going to be in the hospital that long?
Right. So you're looking over a year. Wow.
Yeah. They're going to be sent to a skilled nursing facility, and then you're talking about long-term care, which is a different issue. Now, Medicare will cover 100 days in a skilled nursing facility as well. And if you have a Medicare supplement, that Medicare supplement pays the gaps in Medicare. So Medicare has a lot of gaps, even though it's great coverage. It has those gaps, and those gaps are covered by the supplement.
Does it cover home health care? In other words, if we have an elderly parent, they're in their 80s, and God forbid they need someone to come in and take care of them in the house, does that cover that too?
No, Medicare does not pay. That's considered what is called custodial care, helping with bathing, dressing, feeding, toileting, transferring. Okay. Medicare does not cover that. Now, Medicare has a very limited home care benefit, mostly for a physical therapist to come. Let's say someone's recovering from a knee surgery or a hip surgery. Medicare will have someone come to the home to perform some physical therapy, but we're talking about someone who's coming and being there for an hour and then they leave.
Okay. All right. So we got two other parts of Medicare that we need to talk about, and then we can put a bow on this. Okay. And this could be a little confusing. So we now have Medicare Part C, which is called Medicare Advantage. It says it's the part of the Medicare policy that allows private health insurance companies to provide Medicare benefits. How does that work? How does that work in all this? Yeah,
so you're right. This can be very confusing for people when they start looking at Medicare, A, B, C, D. What's the difference of all these things? Okay, so let's break it down. There's basically, you have two options. Option one is you stay on original Medicare, A and B, which we've just spent 15 minutes describing, and you combine that with a Medicare supplement policy, and then you purchase a standalone Part D, the drug coverage, which is Part D as in David. Okay.
Right.
If you have original Medicare A, B, and D with a Medicare supplement, you're complete. Okay, that's option one. Option two is you assign over your Medicare benefits to a Medicare Advantage company. That's called Part C of Medicare. So now what you're doing is you're assigning your A, B, and Part D benefits over to a Medicare Advantage company. That Medicare Advantage company is now responsible to provide your A, B, and D benefits. But now you're under a different system. You're not under a fee-for-service system. You're under an HMO system, which can be fine. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's a different system. So now,
when would somebody want to do that? When the pros and cons?
There's different reasons. A lot of people here in Southern California, these companies, they advertise on television like you can't believe, and they offer a 0 monthly premium. So that $170 for a Medicare supplement, you wouldn't have to pay because now you're under their system. They give you kind of a premium-free system. But now you have to have a primary doctor, and anytime you need medical care, you have to go see that doctor first. You don't have the freedom that original Medicare gives you. Okay, and then if you need to see a specialist, you have to get a referral. And also, every time you use one of the services, you're going to be paying something. So you're going to pay for it to see the doctor. You're going to pay for an MRI. You're going to be paying something if you have to get chemotherapy. You're going to be paying something if you go to the hospital. Okay, so now it's a pay-as-you-go kind of a system, and it has less options in terms of physicians that you can go see.
So while what you're saying, Ray, is I might save the $170 a month in the Medigap supplemental coverage by going with one of these companies, but if I'm not careful and I use a doctor that's not in their network, I could end up paying a lot more than that, right?
Well, not necessarily more.
Okay.
There'll be less freedom of choice.
Less options.
That way. Less options. A lot of people join these Medicare Advantage plans, and there's some good ones. I mean, we have clients. We also handle Medicare Advantage plans. The big attractive factor is the 0 monthly premium. And also sometimes, especially because in group insurance, a lot of small groups are HMO groups. And so someone might be in an HMO group with Blue Shield or Blue Cross, and they have a doctor they've been seeing for years as part of their group HMO. Then when they go on Medicare, they find out that their doctor that they've seen with their group also is on a Medicare Advantage plan. Then that can make sense to go to Medicare Advantage.
But that's the advantage of working with someone who lives and breathes this stuff every single day is you've got options. And
right.
So under the Part C, if you know who all your doctors are and they're all covered under this, then that might be an option. But again, obviously we're not going to get into every single scenario. So Medicare Part B does not cover prescription drugs, correct?
Yeah,
that's what Part D is. So let's talk about Part D.
Yeah, so Part B, as in boy, does not cover, just to reiterate,
sure.
Part does not cover routine dental or routine vision. It doesn't cover cosmetic surgeries and things like that. But original Medicare does cover eye illness. A lot of people ask, well, what about dental and vision? Original Medicare doesn't pay for routine dental.
Right.
It does. Okay, and also routine vision. But if you have cataracts or glaucoma, that is covered under a Medicare Part B. Okay, Part D. Part D is the newest part of Medicare, which was created in 2006. Was actually under, I think it was the Bush administration at that time, and Congress passed the prescription drug benefit under Medicare. There is a standalone Part D plans available in every state in the country. And in California, for example, there's over 25 Part D companies. And so this becomes a little bit more complicated. So what we do is when someone contacts us, part of our consulting process is we do inquire about what medications they're taking, and we actually shop for their prescription drug plan. When you have 25 different Part D companies, it's very important that the Part D plan you have is going to cover your medications. So we actually shop for a Part D plan for our clients, and then find a company that's going to be the most cost efficient and is going to cover their drugs. So that is a standalone policy. So you have your Medicare supplement, which is a standalone policy, and then you'd have a Part D right beside it, which is also standalone.
How much does the Part D cost on a month? It's not that expensive, if I remember correctly.
No, they're not very expensive. I mean, the lowest premium Part D plan in 2023 is going to be $4.50.
Okay.
But they can go up. They can be $50, $60 a month. But they're fairly reasonable. And Congress, under this recent legislation they just passed, they're actually going to be enriching the Part D plan over the next 5 years. So the drug coverage under Medicare is going to be fabulous coming up.
Now, on the Part D, generic versus brand names, are you limited to that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there are 5 tiers under Part D. So there's generic, then there's preferred brand, and then brand name, and then there's more expensive drugs. Many of the Part D plans will cover your generic drugs like blood pressure drugs or blood thinner drugs at a zero copay. So there's a lot of them that you pay nothing to get your medication, and then they're going to go up from there depending on how expensive the drug is.
Now, let me go back to something we talked about at the beginning. You can apply for Medicare. I mean, again, there's a penalty if the government wants you to have insurance. So
Right.
You can apply for Medicare once you are no longer working for a company. But I mean, is there any time that you can? I mean, if you get over 70, can you not apply? Can you apply for Medicare at any time? How does that work?
Yeah, so if someone's covered under employer group insurance, there is no penalty. So I want to repeat that. If you stay on your employer group insurance, you do not have a penalty when you go on Medicare, whether it's age 68, age 70. Believe it or not, Art, we had a businessman who was under his employer group insurance until he was 90. And then came off at 90 and came off it and went on Medicare. And of course, he paid no penalty because he was covered under the employer group insurance for that.
He was a ski instructor, right? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, but this is really important because it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you make a mistake,
right,
and you try and do, and doctors, this is, it's like everything else. If I tried to fix my own teeth and do my own crowns and bridges, I'd get in big trouble. Yeah. You need to go to a specialist who understands all of this and who can give you what your options are. And obviously you want the maximum coverage because when we get to age 65, I mean, hey, I took on this bicycling trip that I took, Ray, I took a fall. I took one and my knee still hurts because there's no give in gravel and concrete on the roads of Italy. And, my knee hurts and you get hurt and you get older and, we get into all kinds of different things that are going on and you want to make sure it's covered. And if you don't get it covered, it can be really, really expensive. So I think we hit all the high points. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we call it a podcast? Well,
we have really gone through. It's been probably everyone feels like they've been drinking from a fire hose here.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage your listeners again, just reach out to us at any time, and we'd be glad to send you a complimentary copy of my book. Again, for the first 10 people that respond, they're going to get a free copy of my book.
Sure.
We're here, we're a family-run business. We love hearing from our friends and people who want help with Medicare. And by the way, there's no pressure, sales pressure. If people call us, we have people call us all the time and just want to review. Hey, is it smart for me to switch to Medicare? And we'll tell you, hey, you know what? It makes more sense to stay on your group insurance. We often tell people that. And we do that because it's the right thing to do, Art. And what we find is those same people come back to us 3 years later, 5 years later, and say, hey, you know what? I'm now retiring, leaving my group insurance. I was so grateful for the help you gave me 3 years ago. Can you help me now with my Medicare supplement insurance?
So one more time, Ray, give out your contact information.
Sure. Again, let's start with the toll-free number. It's nationwide. We're licensed in over 30 states, and we're probably adding a new state every couple months. Our toll-free number is 800-464-4941. And when you call, simply ask for my son, Elliot or Mo. They're here in the office every day. I'm also available, but not as much as they are. They're right here every day. And then you can send an email to me at ray@weretiresmart.com, or go to our website, which is www.martinmedicare.com, and you'll see there lots of educational videos, all of our contact information, and there's a link also to order my book.
Yeah, and I would, again, folks, if you get to this point and you're ready to look at Medicare, our podcasts are all on Eide Bailey's websites. They are housed there. They're also on your podcast app with your Apple or not Apple or Orange or whatever you're using. Again, as I've told you, I have adult children to teach me how to use computers and the internet. So however you can get a hold of podcasts, they're all there. All my podcasts going back to 2018, I think we started this thing, are there. So, when it's time, just listen to it again. And you have just gotten a master's level course on how it works if you're going to go on to Medicare. So, Ray Martin, thank you so much. If you'd kind of hang with me as I take the show out, and I would appreciate it. So, folks, I want to again encourage you to go to the website of our wonderful marketing partner, Decisions in Dentistry magazine, www.decisionsinDentistry.com. World-class clinical content, the best dentists, instructors, professors, clinicians in the world are published in this magazine, and you can get access to over 140 continuing education courses with the touch of a button for a very reasonable price. Go to www.decisionsindentistry.com. If you are looking for a dental CPA consulting advice, if you want to know who's going to win the World Series, what can I tell you? I can probably help you with that too. It looks like at this point, and I don't know what it'll be when we get published, the young man, I talk about him every once in a while, the young man I coached in Little League, Shane Bieber, who won the Cy Young Award and is with the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians have a 6-game lead with about 12 games to play. They're looking good. So, maybe they'll make it. Maybe it'll be, Aaron Judge and the Yankees. It'll be fun. So if you need any kind of advice like that or retirement, any of that stuff, my email address is awiederman, WIEDERMAN @EideBailey, EIDEBAILLY.com. Shoot me an email or call me on my direct line, which is 657-279-3243. Ray Martin, thank you so much for your great knowledge and information. I love working with really nice people who are specialists like yourself. Really appreciate it.
Art, thank you very much for the invitation to speak to your audience. I really appreciate it.
Well,
all the best.
And guys, if you need some help on this, I personally use Ray. I send Ray my clients. I don't bring anybody as a general rule on this podcast that I would not refer myself or my clients to. And with that said, folks, we will call it a podcast for today. So I want to thank you for the honor and privilege of your time, the thousands of people that listen to this every month, to this podcast. I'm very proud of the work we've done. We're going to continue to do it. I've got some really great guests lined up coming up. We have an episode on the non-financial aspects of retirement. You're going to find out what a 2 a.m. friend is. And we've got a wonderful consultant who's going to be talking to us about entrepreneurship. And then we have another episode coming up with our Eide Bailey, Director of Tax Controversies. Ray Peeler is going to be on here in the next month or two, and we're going to talk about dealing with the IRS and what does it mean that they're bringing 80,000 new IRS employees. We'll find out all about that. So please continue to listen. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe to the podcast. And with that, this is Art Wiederman for the Art of Dental Finance and Management with Art Wiederman, CPA, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Art of Dental Finance and Management podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. The Art of Dental Finance and Management podcast is produced by Eide Bailly in partnership with Art Wiederman, CPA, Decisions in Dentistry Magazine, and the Academy of Dental CPAs. For audience questions and feedback, email Art Wiederman, awiederman@eidebailly.com. That's AWIEDERMAN at EIDEBAILLY.com. Or you may call Art at 657-279-3243.